Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to this Zeald webinar. It's the 26th in our Keep Calm and Get Digital series. My name is Jarrah and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. One of the key trends that we're seeing in the market at the moment is a desire to conduct more and more businesses online. This was already growing prior to COVID quite substantially, which then essentially just accelerated things even further. That is why today's topic is so critical. How to use digital analytics to accelerate sales. Today's guest speaker has a phenomenal amount of experience and knowledge in this space. It is my pleasure to introduce Bruce Marshall-Banks, Marketing Advisor at Zeald. Bruce has worked closely with hundreds of businesses over the years, helping them implement marketing strategies based on analytics research. So he's going to be sharing us his tips today. A little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't joined us for one of these webinars before, we will be recording this session. So if you miss any part of it, you'll be able to view this on our YouTube channel later on today. We will send you out a link at the conclusion of the event, or once we've pulled down the recording anyway, and posted it to YouTube. Feel free to post questions at any point throughout the webinar. If it's appropriate, I may ask them as we go. Otherwise, we will hold those till the Q&A section that we have at the end. You're welcome to use the Q&A module that I'm highlighting here to ask those questions as we go. If you can't hear anything, so I'm highlighting this for those people that can't hear anything, please check your audio settings here. All right. Now, I'd like to invite Bruce to join us and share his screen, take us through his presentation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jarrah.
Cool.
Okay, I'll just kick off this presentation. Oh, present that. Here we go. Okay, using Google Analytics. So today, what we're going to cover is a few things, but we're not going to get too deep into the technical of analytics. We're going to show you a few areas to make sure you can trust your marketing, which means that your tracking is set up correctly. And then I'm going to show you a few ways for either scaling or refining your marketing, especially your paid marketing, and using Google Analytics to make those decisions. And then at the end, we'll show you a full sales funnel and just give you some pointers on the different KPIs at the different stages of the funnel, just so that measuring each different type of marketing correctly. Okay, so let's jump in the next one. Let's just come out a little bit slowly. Okay, so what we're going to use Google Analytics here for is to overcome a fear of advertising. And where we see mainly that, and I'll just jump back to that slide, is that it is in not knowing exactly what's working and what is not working, but it's also around a cause and effect relationship. So you spend your money on one thing, and how do I know if that's working? And how do I know where to increase the spend of my marketing? And those answers are usually in analytics. And then to drill down even further and pinpoint individual marketing activities, and sometimes even down to individual ads. So to do this, we need to do a few steps. Firstly, is just get a grasp of the basics of Google Analytics. We're going to show you a few different ways of interpreting data. They're not difficult, but once you learn them, you'll know how to understand your numbers. Once you understand that, then you can have understanding of the cause and effect relationship of your marketing, and then that can reduce the fear in paid advertising. It can lead to more predictability, so that you know when you do spend another $100 or another $200 or another $1,000 a month, that you can expect or have a reasonable expectation of what you'll get in return for that.
I've always found, Bruce, that once you know your numbers and that sort of thing, marketing in that way becomes less of a cost and more of an investment to get a return, because you understand what that return can be. So it's an incredibly powerful point, that it becomes less about a problem or a cost, and more about that opportunity once you know it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and one of the first things to get right, though, is to make sure you can trust your data. So if we're going to make those decisions, we want to make it off something that we know is accurate. So one of the misunderstandings that Google Analytics works just straight out of the box, and by that I mean is you get it for free. They give you a tag that you can put on your site. you drop it on the site and suddenly you're tracking, and it's magically going to provide insights because you've done that. It doesn't really, there's a little bit more to go to that. Excuse me, I got a bit of a dry cough. But so what we do is a basic checklist here, because these are the things that we see in the initial setup of analytics that if you don't pick them up straight away, down the track, you're going to miss out, because Google Analytics only starts collecting the data based when each one of these is set up. So it doesn't act retrospectively. So the first one we recommend is filtered views. So normally you'd have one view which you don't touch at all. And what that means is in analytics, we're collecting the data, but these views have a different way of filtering that data on the way through. So we could have one view which is all about people who are just, say, logged into your website if you had a membership site. We like to always at least run one view which is raw data, so we can always refer back to that. And then another one which is filtered. And things that we like to filter out would be your internal traffic. You don't want your own sales team, for instance, turning up in the stats if you're trying to make decisions based on new customer acquisition. So we try and filter out as many people in the company that shouldn't be in this type of view. And then that will give you more accurate data. And that includes us as developers as well. Another one is referral exclusions. And this can be a bit of a problem if it's not detected early, because it refers to normally to payment gateways. So for instance, down here, I can see on this particular site that there's Payment Express, there's Lay-by. If we didn't have those in there, when the traffic came in from AdWords, it would come to the site and be detected as paid traffic. And then after an order was made, it would strip that tagging, and it would then place it as referral traffic. So this can usually be detected quite quickly in analytics. When we look at the channel report, we'll see that referrals is a lot higher than it should be. And then the first place we'd look here is to sort that out. And where that will have a big impact is, especially for AdWords, is that you won't know which ads are working and which ads are not, or which particular campaigns are working, because you won't have accurate data.
You often see this when someone puts in potentially a new payment gateway, like the Lay-by one that you highlighted there. So the site's been running for a while, you put in a new option for people to pay, and if you don't put that referral exclusion in, then all of a sudden, all your sales are coming from Lay-by instead of wherever they originally came from, right?
Yeah. Another one is the remarketing audiences is usually not switched on. We find this. So this is really important, obviously, is that probably 95% or more of the people who come to your site are going to say no the first time round. It doesn't mean that they weren't interested. It just means that it needed a follow-up. And that's just about everything. So not having this audience prevents you from being able to do the follow-up in your marketing and know if that follow-up is working. So this is a very simple default one that would automatically be set up. And then there's all sorts of levels of running remarketing. But for the first step is just to make sure you're tracking what people were doing, the people who visited the last 30 days. And by that, I don't mean people, I mean it's actually cookies. We're not tracking anyone by as a person. The next one too is new, but it's a really good feature, is called Google Signals. It's not, well, it's new in terms of it's been around since about 2018. What this does is help us replace what used to be called a user ID view. And what that allows us to do is track people who logged into the site. And then we can say, and then when we know that, we know what devices they're on. So what this will do is enable us to look at the different device pathways through to a sale. But the way this one works is that it doesn't involve a highly technical setup, because it's tracking people who are logged into Google. And that's a high percentage of people. So a lot of people, for instance, use Google Mail and they're logged in all day long. So this will give you enough. It won't tell you everything about every single visitor, but like a lot of data analysis, we just want the trend. We want enough information to be able to make a decision. And you might find something like, for instance, that you might be getting a really high percentage of people who find you on a mobile and close on a mobile as well, and things like that, which will then influence the way you build your site and design your site. So knowing devices is really important. And these are all free. They're really just a matter of a one-click thing that was missed during setup. This one is my pet hate, which is when demographics and interest reports are not turned on. So if you didn't do this, you wouldn't know the age or gender of people or the location that they came from, which is obviously critical. And then there's some other great ones, such as in-market audiences, which is what you could use that to be, if someone purchases from you, what other things in the market they were looking at the time of purchase. And if it's closely related products, it's usually a good option in your display campaigns as something to target. So this information here is, it can be gold. So you need this enabled. What else have we got?
Sorry, just Bruce, just on that. So what you're saying is that when someone does their first, the analytics is installed for the first time, a lot of these tools are by default turned off. Is that what you're saying? And so
All of them.
all of them are turned off, right? So
Yeah.
so if they're being installed by a professional, they should be going through and turning these on. But and for the most
Yeah.
part, you should be checking to make sure they're just the switch is flicked, right?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And
Cool.
and what I've skipped today, because I didn't want to make it 2 hours long, but it was the e-commerce
Yeah.
side of things,
Yeah.
which is a more sophisticated setup. But obviously, you want certain things that get missed there are like product views, if it's not set up correctly, and category level purchases. So something really handy to know is what are your best selling categories? And if it's not set up correctly, that can happen. And brand terms is a nice and easy one to set up. This is where you come in and you just enter in your brand name. But what Google will do, excuse me, is that they will then create new channel report. And that channel report will include generic and branded search. So where this is really handy is, again, when we're looking at something like paid media, how did paid go? We want to look at how paid performed for brand, which would have traditionally a very good and high ROI, or return on advertising spend, or cost per acquisition. But we also want to see the performance of generic as a separate channel, because generic is critical along the way. Brand is just the end result of other marketing. So the brand will also let us know things like how offline is performing as well. And if we see that start to drop in the branded search terms, we need to then have a few conversations with the business owner just to see what else may have changed in the business that is causing that. Because you don't want to see your brand terms dropping, because they're easy win. Right. You got to keep them going, but you also want to be focused on generic. You don't want to be just all brand, because that's going to end badly at some stage. You want the generic terms to be converting to bringing in fresh new customers as well. So we can set different channels and have different expectations for them.
So if I understand this correctly, if the brand terms are dropping in terms of volume, is that because less people are actually searching for that business, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It normally is. It could be that you may have pulled back budget on those terms, but normally they're quite easy and cheap to bid on. Sometimes people pull back on those terms because they think that it's all going to flow through to organic. It never does. So you want to pay for it, because it will always be a little bit higher. But we're talking about like 50 cents a click or less for a lot of these brand terms, so that it's really a bit of a no-brainer that you would be bidding on them, and you want to be bidding high so that no one else can bid on your brand as well.
Right.
Okay. And relevant goals. So by this we mean something that's worthy of go back, making a decision on. So what we can see, an example of something that would not be so good is this one here, which had a view of a contact page. So if we're going in and trying to make a performance-based decision on how a campaign is going, I don't really want to know that they got to the contact page and had a look. I want to know that they actually filled out the form and hit submit, and that email was sent. Even as the event that we're tracking, email is on the way. So not, because sometimes they may actually click the button as well, and something may go wrong. We don't want that tracked as a conversion. So we need to make sure that the right goals are set, and normally it's anything around a transaction or a sale, of course, a contact. These are genuine leads, so a phone call, email clicks, and email signups if you have a strategy around building your email list. But nothing, you don't want it cluttered up with goals, which probably could be tracked as an event or something else. And you only get, I think you get 20 of these in a free version of analytics. So you don't want to waste them either. That's something. So now we do a quick campaign analysis. So the question I always get asked is, okay, I want more sales, and at the same time, I want the return on investment to increase. So both graphs are going up at the same time, which is a difficult one to do. But this is 3 or 4 easy steps here that are how you would go about that. So, for instance, first one is we go and have a look at the locations in analytics. So this would be looking at all channels and how it's performing in a certain location. This could be, depending on the business, multiple countries. And what we have is the option of drilling down to regions or into cities. So, excuse me, what I'd recommend is a top 5 that you'd focus on first. And in any of your marketing, you want to make sure that those top 5 regions or cities, even if you're an international company, you can target by city, sometimes is more effective than by a country. So like, for instance, if you were going from New Zealand and want to open up in Australia, you might have a few key cities that you're targeting and leave the rest out. So targeting by city, pick 5 of them and maximize the budgets in those areas so that you're getting, so that your ads are showing all day long for them. You don't want the budget scattered around too much. The other thing we can do, so also you want to go back at least 3 months when we're doing this type of analysis and looking at the performance. The other thing here too is that I'm looking at here in analytics is by revenue in terms of the performance. You could swap that to, if you weren't an e-commerce business, you could swap it to a goal such as a contact or lead, whatever you've got set up. Just not a page view in there. So once we've got top selling locations, here's just what I was talking about before, drilling down and getting the top 5 winners. So if it was New Zealand, you're probably going to get the same 5 all the time, but maybe not, maybe not. But you can see here, and just in this one, if I was an e-commerce business and I was selling a product and I was looking at my campaign structure, I might actually want campaigns in there that are divided up by these cities or actually regions, some of them, and I'll be maximizing my budgets. If I see all my transactions are coming from Auckland and I see that I could spend another 2K in Auckland alone, then I might decide on some of these others that are not in this list to pull back on them, take Auckland, move it into a new campaign and maximize that as far as I can until basically as far as you can for whatever's sustainable for your business. If the ROI is, if you're making back $4 for every dollar you spend, and sometimes people are up to 10 or 12, then you want to keep going on that and keep it going as far as you can. Top selling products is the same one. It's the 80-20 rule. And on the internet, it's the 90-10. Basically, it seems to be even more extreme on the internet when we look at the stats. And then what you can do is drill down within that. So, for instance, if you had 100 products, 20 of them are going to be around about 80% of your sales. But if you drill down within that, I think you have about 4%. It's about 64% or something of sales, and drill down again, you can have 1% of your products is worth about 50% of sales. So
Wow.
yeah, and so that will then lead to a focus on your budget as well. You might decide you've got those key locations, but then you might say within those locations, these are the products that we'll do. And you can imagine just those two things that we just talked about, as in, I'm going to go with my very best products and I'm going to do them in my very best locations, is that your return on advertising spend will go up quite quickly by making those sort of adjustments.
Excellent. So would a good rule of thumb be really just focus on what's doing well already? Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get as much as you can out of what you got.
Yeah.
Is kind of the process. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's the. And then we look at the traffic sources that are going up. For most people, we're talking about organic paid. Facebook may appear in here, or email. And then just deciding what to invest in and maybe de-invest in if it's not based on a revenue decision or a lead as the metric that we're looking at. So one thing though to be careful of here is that different channels can influence others. So what we'll see is that there's a report in analytics called assisted conversions, and another one, a paths report. Now, assisted conversions is that the ratio of some things like paid search and organic will have as many assists, as much revenue is. They may not be the very last click that someone clicked on the way through to a sale, but people don't come in and just buy straight away. There might be multiple paths, like they did email and then they came back and they did paid and then they did SEO last, and maybe another email got them finally. Those other channels get no credit, just the email does. So we just need to be a little bit careful here, but it should really, what we're trying to do is just get a trend and make sure if there's anything obvious that's just not selling, is that you got to either change the tactics in that or reallocate budgets. And the landing pages, again, the same principles, is that you're not trying to optimize your entire site. Especially if you've got a large site, you just want to go through and focus on the key product pages that are selling, or key lead generation pages, and see what you can do to further improve those pages. So you don't necessarily have to go through and do the entire site. It might be just a few key offers on a few pages that will get you the best result. See that screenshot there? It's not the right one. So, so if we go through that, quickly improve website sales through locations and traffic sources, and then how to improve the website. We're just going to look at the most valuable landing pages and see if we can do something better in terms of the promotions on those pages.
If I'm understanding you correctly, so that promotion should once again be around those top selling products, maybe even just your top 5 to 10% is going to get you the best result. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yep, definitely. And we'll focus on maybe the 5 of all of those things. We want to drill down to maybe the top 5. So it'll be the top 5 landing pages, and then on that, what's really going to get, if it's doing well, and what can improve it. Then 2 things that will work the best is the targeting that's bringing traffic to that page. Can that be improved? And what about the offer on that page? Can you do something even better? Maybe some bundling or something like that to increase the average order value of what people are already buying, as things like that.
Cool.
And the last thing we see, and this is where sometimes campaigns get pulled too early. I'll just get all that stats there. And so what we've got here is a traditional marketing funnel, and this means top of funnel, means middle of funnel, and means bottom of funnel. And what we need to do when we're setting goals and KPIs for each stage is have different expectations of what the campaigns should achieve in each one of these. So let's say if I picked out 3 things out of this list, top one may be video. Second one, middle of the funnel, would be something like an email sign-up page. and bottom of the funnel might be something like a product page that is having something like Google Shopping sent to it. So what happens a lot is that people will be running Google Shopping, and they'll look at that campaign and go, okay, well, that's getting me 5 to 1. And then they'll run a video campaign up here, maybe in YouTube or Facebook. Now the expectation there is that, well, it's not getting me 5 to 1. I should pull that campaign. Okay, and that's just not what we should be expecting at the top here, because these people at the top are a new audience who are not being exposed to the product or brand before, or a lot of them haven't. Whereas down the bottom here, they may have been to the site a couple of times, or they may be coming back to buy again. So what we want up here is different metrics that we're going to look for. So if we're running video campaigns, we want this one here, which is a pixeled audience. So we can track that the people who are genuinely interested in the video, maybe 50% or more of the video was watched. We can put them into an audience and remarket to them with the expectation of getting them to maybe download something for free at that stage. That's our expectations up here. It would be great if we could show a video and they clicked on it and purchased that day, but this is to set up more of a scaling to your marketing, is building up audiences at this top. So if we're looking at success metrics here, these are the types of ones we want. We want to see more branded search coming in. We want to see a remarketing list building. We want to see new visitors and a higher percentage of new visitors coming to the site. And then you know that your video campaigns are working. In the middle here, we've got, say, something like an email sign up. And what we really want here is how many new leads generated is a pretty good one. Again, it's a different type of remarketing list that we're building at this stage, but are they downloading what we're offering as a free offer? And these are the types of metrics that would tell us if it's going well at that stage. And then bottom of the funnel, this is right at the point where they've probably been through some of these stages and they're ready to buy. At here, we're really starting to get more focused in on conversion rates. We're looking at the, so just go back there, how long it took to convert once they've arrived at the site, and average order values again, which will determine, pretty much determines how much you can spend in future in your advertising. And we're looking at, is this offer converting at this stage? So if we were to look at like a return on investment at each stage, what we'd hope for up here is probably to break even. So if we're spending $100, is that we're building all these lists, but at the same time, maybe $100 of sales came back, because some of them were ready to buy, but most won't be. In here, maybe 2 to 1. So we really want to build a list, but for some of them will buy quite quickly after signing up. So maybe a 2 to 1 return on investment. And then down the bottom here, we want 4 to 1. That most people are happy with that number, but if it can be higher, all the better. And if it ran at those numbers, you could scale it as far as you can, really, and those types of ones using those metrics. Yeah.
So would you say that at the top, what you're doing, you're kind of just trying to warm people up, right? Like you're kind of, they're starting a bit cold, right? Whereas down the bottom, they're already ready to buy, and so maybe a little bit hotter, and that's why you get a better conversion rate. Would that be a good way to maybe look at it?
Yeah. And you could look at it too up here as this is consumption of content at the top around here. Gotcha. As well. So they may watch a video, they might read a few blog posts. It might take a while to warm them up.
Yep. Oh, awesome. Great.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Bruce. So I see the next slide is questions. Should we move on to that now, or did you have more here? Or
that was it. Yeah.
That was it. Okay, cool. All right. So what I'll do is we'll just we'll now open up the floor, or the virtual floor, so to speak, through for questions. So if anyone has got some questions, there's that little chat module that I showed you through before. If people would like to send those through, then we can start asking some questions and get you some answers as well. So I'll just stop share there. Right, there we go. All right. So yeah, if you want to fire that through, then I've got a couple of questions here for you already, Bruce. Just while we get some more through from everyone that's attending. It's nice to see such a big audience arriving today too, by the way. So you've shown us through like a whole bunch of different key areas in analytics. Do you have like a favorite part that or a place that you always go first time when you're going and looking at a new account? Is there a place you do that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important though to ask the business a lot of questions as
Yep.
well. If it's a new account, there'll be a
Mm-hmm.
lot of questions for the business owner, because there'll be stuff that is going on in the business that's really important that we don't know about in analytics. So
Right.
that would
That
be a big
makes
one.
sense. Yep.
And the other one would be the audit to make sure. And if
Yep.
it then checked out, then we'd start to get more interested in the data that's there. But
Gotcha.
yeah, we would definitely, if we're looking at something like comparing for AdWords or something like that, we'd go straight to channels. We'd look
Yep.
at the performance and conversion rates of what's there, because
Mm-hmm.
that gives us a good estimate for our own forecasting
Awesome.
on the expectations for what we can achieve. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you made first, understanding where the business is at, because everything is, you've got to get the context first, or otherwise you can really misinterpret the data, right? So it's
Yeah.
what's the business doing, what's the activity like, and then a lot of the data starts to make sense. So perhaps that feeds into this question that's just come through from one of our attendees is, what advice would you give for a complete newbie just starting Google Analytics? I think.
Yeah. Okay. I would jump in. So a newbie meaning someone wanting to learn it, or somebody wanting to implement it in their business is
Yeah.
maybe if you wanted to learn it, Google has an excellent Google Analytics Academy.
Mm-hmm.
They have a certificate you can set, but you don't have to actually do the exam at the end. You could go through and learn that. That will be probably more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
And during that, they have a fully working e-commerce analytics setup that you can go through and tinker with and learn along the way.
Awesome.
I would do that. If it's from a business owner, I would just get straight into it with what we said there. I wouldn't, I'd get a product out there and start with what you know and build on it.
Awesome.
I wouldn't try and learn all of analytics just to get started. Yeah.
Cool. So you could be at that for a while, because it's
Yeah.
quite a big topic, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now I've got a quite specific question that's just come through here. My sales reports on my website don't match what is recorded in analytics. Which should I trust?
You trust your e-commerce data, because Google Analytics will not pick up on refunds and things like that as well.
I see.
So whereas
Okay.
your e-commerce center will, and there'll be a mismatch, and there's can be a delay of about 4 hours too between, assuming everything's set up correctly as well. But there's always, almost every account, it won't perfectly match up.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. Got a question here. What is the biggest mistake that people make when doing analytics?
Assuming that analytics is where you get your insights. Okay,
Yep.
so that's kind of true. The biggest thing is that Google Analytics is there to answer a question that you've already have, and then you go in and you look for an answer to the question. It's when you go, just give me some insights, that, well, you can spend a lot of time in there looking for stuff which is not that relevant for the business at the time. So it's really important to start everything you do in analytics with a question that you need answered.
Okay. Oh, that's a great way to look at it. Awesome. Thank you. You've got similar to a question that we had before about the e-commerce, but it's to do with AdWords. So this one's come through from Rod. Why do AdWords data and analytics data vary at times?
No, it shouldn't. What it could be doing there is on the conversion rates is that what analytics has is last click conversions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you set up AdWords, is that you have a choice of what you got. And what they have is different attribution models. So what we do at Zeald, and a lot of other places would do, is that we'd set a different attribution model, which may put a little bit more weight to the first touch compared to the last click, and evenly balance them, which is called a position-based model. And if you had enough, if you're lucky enough to have enough sales, you can use what's called a data-driven model, where you have algorithms making the decisions. And that way your conversion data will be different when it comes through. Now, if you've got other things which is click data different, that shouldn't be. Okay, so that means that there might be something wrong with the tracking at the point in time. Yeah.
Right. So if I understand that correctly, so your analytics is generally going to be last click attribution. So it's only going to pick up that, but the actual traffic volume should always match between.
Yeah, that should match.
That should match between analytics and AdWords, but the other might be about attribution. Okay, cool. That makes sense to me. Hopefully that answered your question, Rod. Got another question through here. What is a good bounce rate?
Depends on the scenario. There's okay. So put it this way. Put it this way. Say if I send out an email, and the email went out to an audience, expected them on a mobile phone to open it and read it, and it was a blog post that I wanted them to read. 100% bounce rate would be fine with me, because everyone did exactly what I needed them to, which was just read it and then leave, which is what my expectation was. So it depends on the context of that, what the bounce rate is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it depends on the channels and the utility of the page. If we want to get all technical, but some pages are there to convert. Some pages are there just to get you to go to another page. Some pages are there to give you information. And we need different expectations from all of those pages. So a good bounce rate doesn't, even in that context within the exact same business, still should vary.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a different. So you shouldn't have someone just giving you an average. Oh, bounce rate of 50% is good. It's no.
Okay. Yeah, that's good, because ultimately, if the outcome was just someone arriving on your website and maybe getting the phone number and dialing you, then they've only looked at one page and left, right? That's a bounce, but it was actually a good bounce.
Fine with me,
It's absolutely fine. So, that makes a lot of sense, right? So it's we've got to look at the context within that page, potentially what's there and what the objective of the page is, before you just go straight to bounce rate and use that as an indicator. Okay, that makes sense. Got a bit more of another question here, just around the top selling products here from one of the attendees. Did you suggest that you pump ads for top selling products until the ROI drops to a certain level and then move on to another location or product?
Yeah, so top selling products, something like that may be of use for something if you're running Google Shopping. So what I'd do there, I'd set up the feed to be a separate segment of the feed to be just a top selling products campaign. So I'd have all my products, maybe the top 80% in one campaign, 20% in another campaign, which was called top selling products. And I'd ramp that one up and make sure I maximized all of my budget first on that one before I used anything up into the others. And it's just depending on what your budgets are. If you had $10,000 a month, it's going to obviously be balanced differently. But if you're really tight on budget, I'd do it that way.
Cool. Oh, that's great. Awesome. Well, I think that's kind of all the time we've got, because we're just coming up on time. So thanks to everyone who sent those questions through, and really appreciate your insights today, Bruce. We'll just do a quick little wrap up here. So, all right, can you see that screen? The Zeald overview should be coming through now. So look, here's what we know, right? Google Analytics is essentially the industry standard reporting tool for website performance. Everyone should have it installed, especially at the moment. We've just been through this simply unprecedented event, and people just want to get more and more involved in doing business online, whether that's selling or just doing research around what services people should buy. So the opportunity here is that if you set up those conversion goals and do them accurately, and maybe move past just a page view, as Bruce suggests, it'll allow you to measure the efficacy of your marketing campaigns, allowing you to make some really smart decisions around your media spend and your activity. So our prediction is those businesses that make marketing decisions based on data will always do better than those that just do it based on guesswork. All right, so our recommendation is that you know your numbers, and the sooner that you get a baseline for your business so that you can make those decisions, the quicker you can actually improve and do so with confidence, and get rid of that fear of advertising that Bruce was talking about a little bit earlier on in the segment. So just a little bit about Zeald. As we wrap up, we've been helping businesses with their digital transformation for just on 20 years. It is our goal to help New Zealand digitally transform with a range of websites, digital marketing, automation, and integration services that we provide. That's one of the reasons why we've also got a bit of a social purpose with Zeald as well, and that is why we launched our Get E-commerce movement. Applications are open for businesses to apply for a free e-commerce website setup. The offer also comes with 12 months worth of zero-rated hosting, the only charge being a 2% success fee. All right, if you're interested in getting a free e-commerce site from Zeald, we have solutions available that are template driven for retail businesses, food and beverage, and we also have a charities option coming very, very soon in the next couple of weeks. If you know anyone that wants to start selling online, you can get them to head along to zeald.com and they can register for the Get e-commerce movement. Now, one thing that's just happened in the last week, we have also been approved to provide services to small to medium businesses throughout New Zealand through the Regional Business Partner Program. You could get up to $4,000 worth of funding for additional support on strategy and advice on how to transform your business and take advantage of the digital tools out there. If you'd like to know more about this fund, please ask for a consultation with Zeald in the feedback form that we'll be sending out a little bit later on today, along with a link to the recording of this session. Our next webinar is next week on Wednesday, the 5th of August at 2 p.m. once more. This session will be about how to develop smart digital content. This is a fairly big topic, so if you'd like to join us for that, you can register once again at our website, zeald.com. A special thanks once again to our guest speaker today, Bruce. Fantastic as always. Pleasure to host you, and appreciate your insights. It was really intriguing. That is all the time we have for today, folks. If you know anyone that might benefit from attending these webinars in the future, please feel free to share the register link as well. Wish you a good day and good luck.